I am delighted to be here again with my friend Sah D'Simone. And last year when we spoke, I wasn't expecting to be able to talk to you again this year. When I started looking into what is the theme this year, it's connection and joy. And I just had to ask you to come back. So thank you, Sah, for being here and doing this together.
It's an honor, Lynn. Anything for you, my dear. Literally. Thank you.
So
Wow.
why don't you kind of fill us in a little bit on what's been going on with you, whatever you'd like to share. And I'm also really interested in learning a bit more about your chaplain program that you're in.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Um, how I'm doing? Ooh, it's a big question, you know. It's we just crossed the 1 year anniversary of my mom's death, and a few weeks before she died, I had so many physical problems. Like, so many things were wrong, from conjunctivitis to something with my lung, to a torn ligament in my left foot, to something on my, like, literally, I was just had a whole package of things that I was dealing with a few weeks before she died. And then looking back, I think obviously it was a somatic revelation that the severing of mother in physical form was happening. So I think my body was already in that oracular state of telling me what was going to happen and showing me somatically all the ways that I would have to like change and find strength in other ways and find refuge in other ways, you know?
Mhm.
And and then now a year later, around the same time of my mom's 1 year anniversary, on the 24th of December, I had to go to the emergency room. So it's like that. It's like the thing. It's like this painful cycle, you know, that the grief is has me on, and I'm not. You know, sometimes I'm mad at it. Sometimes I want it gone, and then there's these beautiful points of realization and insight where I welcome it, where I touch the part of my body that's aching, and I say, "Thank you for visiting me." I touch the part of my body that is in discomfort, that it's tense, that is inflamed. And I say, thank you for visiting me and I love you. So I'm opening up to this, to the somatic response my body's having to the grief in a whole new way, which is incredible and also really painful, you know? And
Mhm.
this is how I'm doing these days. It's really dealing with a lot of physical things coming up, and also knowing that there are a direct reflection of how severe the grief has been. And as I'm talking, I can already I can already feel myself welling up just touching into that.
Mm.
Yeah. And so it's been hard, you know, and also um to tie into the chaplaincy work, it's insane. People look at people from my family and group of friends, they're like, it doesn't make sense that you are in a hospital for this amount of hours on a weekly basis. It doesn't make sense that you're caring for the dying, that you're caring for the sick. It doesn't make sense that you're being the refuge to the family members of the dying patient. It doesn't make sense that you are there for them. And just like the physical discomfort that I'm experiencing now, it's helping me to have it's developing a whole new level of empathy for patients who are dealing with chronic illness, terminal illness, with ongoing discomfort, ongoing pain. Same thing. The death of my mother, experiencing what I experienced in a hospital when she was dying and dead, was so tragic that it felt like a natural step for me to enter into that space. And obviously, I work at one of the best hospitals in the world, we can say, right? Cedars-Sinai is incredible. And they have an amazing clinical pastoral education program, which I'm part of. And it's mind blowing how much spirituality is a part of the holistic approach to healing in this hospital. It's like incredible. I am like, places like this exist, you know, especially such huge institutions like this.
Mhm.
So the work in a hospital has been hard, confusing, heartbreaking, but also deeply inspiring and deeply profound. And also a whole new way of care. I'm used to helping people heal and be empowered and speak up and transform and change and roll their shoulder backs and like do the empowered thing, and dance with their fears and have this like path to liberation that has worked. Now in the hospital setting, we are not bringing any of that into the patient's room. Only when there is an openness to it, only when there's an opportunity for it. I was with a patient who is terminally ill, and they're very young, and the the doctors didn't exactly say how much time the patient has, but from what we're gathering, it's not very long. And I come into the room, and the patient's like, how do you work with people who are with the context of my experience? And I said, it varies. Sometimes it's just, I become so present that you unburden, that you
Mm-hmm.
share what's going on for you in a safe and non-judgmental way. Sometimes it looks like breathing practices. Sometimes it looks like a more traditional meditation practice. Sometimes it's a breath to movement,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's a forgiveness practice. You tell me where you want to go. I'm here to serve you. And a lot of times, what happens, Lynn, is we just I just listen. I'm just silent. And the more silent I am, not here, but here, literally where my mind and my inner world is so relaxed, the more they can unburden, the more they can um, speak to the things that they haven't spoken before. So it's training me in an entire new way of helping. It's training me in an entire new way of healing, and not healing as the ways that we think about healing, but healing in a way of a miracle, right? Where it's a new perspective. It's a shift in vision. It's a shift. It's an openness in vision. The work in the hospital is giving me such tremendous meaning to my life, and I'm getting this amazing feedback from them. And it's interesting because I look around, it's rabbis and pastors and ministers and reverends, and everyone is these like very well established people within their religious organizations, and I'm not that. I practice Buddhism. I don't even say I'm a Buddhist teacher. You know, but in the hospital setting, my Buddhist study and practice is literally pouring out of me, and it is me. It is leading me in this space, and it's so amazing. And then most of the people are a lot older, so I'm bringing a fresh perspective into the space too.
Right.
And um, yeah, I'm like in awe of like how energizing it is, and also how heartbreaking it is. It's this fine line. When I was presenting something to my cohort, explaining how I feel when I walk the hallways of the hospital, I was sharing that it's that it's that space where heaven and hell meet. They're side by side. It's literally right there. I walk a little bit to the left, I'm in hell. A little bit to the right, I'm in heaven. But as I walk one with my left foot and my right foot, I'm in a little bit in both. And holding paradox, it's training me in paradox. It's training me to be with people and know that there actually is so much suffering and pain going on. And then there's a part of them that is at peace. How could I be with both? How could I tickle both? How could I engage with both?
That really is profound. And to have that experience at the same time as you're grieving your mom. Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest thing. It's the turning the grief into an action led me to service in a whole new way. This is what the grief wants from me. This is what my mother wants from me. It's not for me to be a mess, on the couch, which it happens, or eating or crying over a bowl of soup, or driving and having to pull over because I'm crying, or, not being able to tend to my life and my responsibilities. I think the grief is calling me to service. I think the grief is calling me into a whole new stage of service that I could have never, if you told me even a few years ago that I was going to be doing this work and I would love it so much and it would be like deeply healing for me, I could have never, named it. And then, we know the service is like helping. The helper's high is the greatest high, is the greatest joy. Mission Joy, the documentary from Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I actually had the honor of traveling with Peggy Callahan, who is the director of that film. We went to India together. We met the Dalai Lama together. I participated in anti-slavery work with them. And it is that strange thing where service is joyful, where helping is where true, genuine, sustainable joy like comes from. It's amazing how the work in a hospital, I can leave a shift in the emergency room exhausted, but still be like exhausted physically, but like inspired spiritually, and like there's even a smile on my face, not a smile of like, I'm, grateful that the world is in pain, so I get to be of service. No, but it's a smile of, it's a spiritual smile. It's a smile of, it's grace. It's something that it's beyond this pain here that we're working with. Words lack capacity to convey the sentiment of that joy. It's not happiness. It's joy. It's like a everything's okay. That's what I'm looking for. It's everything is okay, even though things are awful and people are dying and cancer exists and Alzheimer's exists and genocide and massacres exist. There is a sense that like it's okay. Not that these things are happening, but that it's okay. It's like this weird, twisted paradox. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. And one of the things that's coming to mind is you spoke about the stillness in your heart. So you bring the depth of your meditation into those rooms, and you're able to meet them right there as they are.
Exactly.
You don't have to have them be different or better or not scared or, yeah.
This is the place for it, Lynn. It's like where you really understand the power of meditation, the power of just witnessing and being with what is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you are leading a retreat or a class or whatever, there is room for, there is the chatter still pops up. If someone's doing this or that, or moving around or talking, you feel this urge inside of you of correcting, of fixing to make sure that people are being meditative or they're performing spiritual, your perception of spirituality. But in a hospital setting, you really see the years of personal practice, of silence, of developing intimacy with silence, of developing intimacy with what is, and not have the need to change, not have the need to fix, resolve, even offer hope, to just be. And this is that okayness that I was talking about. Help where you can. Suffering may be endless, but don't stop helping. It's what I said earlier. It's like there's all this pain happening and all this dysfunction and harm happening. It doesn't mean that because you feel that everything is okay, you're going to stop helping. No, it moves you towards to continue to help. It propels you to continue to end wars. It propels you to continue to end genocide and do all and speak to things and do the things. This is why the hospital work is so energizing, because I actually know that when I go in, and the more present I am, and the more relaxed I am, the more I actually can help. And it's very often without words, very often without an action, outward action. It's very much this inner equilibrium, this base of like, and I was reflecting to with another chaplain at the cafeteria that I don't open my eyes when I'm like guiding meditation, even in a class or to a patient. Because if I open my eyes, I'm distracting myself from arriving at silence, at arriving at that base, at arriving at the center. And the more I keep arriving in my center, the more I keep arriving in the silence, the more I keep develop my relationship with the silence, the more there is this like the language that I'm using isn't the right language, but it seduces people into their own center. It calls them into their own silence. It's this I'm lacking the words for it, but it's this, as I relax, as I come into this place, they do that for themselves too. It's a beautiful, it's a mirroring that happens. So I don't like to even open my eyes to see like, are they meditating? Is it working? I'm like, no, I need to focus on what I know it's true. That if I relax, that if I come into my center, if I merge with the silence, it will happen naturally for them. So this is that,
When we think about somebody having what we might say a peaceful experience as they're dying, compared to someone who's really fighting it.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So look, there is the peaceful experience with dying, which is the complete denial.
Right.
It happens. It's like total denial. And sometimes I notice this with family members, where I am already inside sad because I'm looking at the chart before meeting a patient and their family, and I'm talking to the nurse, and I don't know anything that the family doesn't know or that the patient doesn't know.
Right.
I'm not the one who brings the news. It's not my job in the system. And sometimes I go there and I'm like, how's it going? Oh, we're good. Staying positive. I just got a call that your mother's actively dying. So I rushed over here. I had all these other patients on my list, but supervisor said, Sah, go see this patient now. They're actively dying. And I meet the patient's family in the waiting room and they're like, staying positive. So there is this like, degree of denial, which happens a lot, right? And then there are patients who are genuinely exhausted from living, which is the saddest. And I feel, even reflecting on a patient even this week too, it calls forth my own exhaustion and my own rejection and my own abandonment. It's something that I notice. Some people who receive a terminal, who are told that they have a terminal illness, that they have a certain amount of time to live, they may just be like, "Thank you," And so I'm getting to the point of the piece where you're talking about. So I'm giving you the other versions that I see. Right? They're like, "Thank you. I'm so happy to just stop trying. I've tried this career my whole life. I've wanted to do this thing my whole life and it never worked. I always rejected." And we sit there and we listen, and their stories are just stories of rejection, stories of abandonment, sad stories. And their whole narrative is a sad story. So they're happy to die because they're tired of knocking at these doors that were not meant for them. So there's that too. And then there is the rare case of someone who lived a very full life, someone who lived a very purposeful life, someone whose life was service oriented, someone whose life was joyful because of the service. There's no joy in life. There's no joyful life that isn't intertwined, interconnected with service. That's something that in my young life, have noticed, and grateful to all the masters and teachers that I've been able to sit with and study from. They all say the same thing. Every major mystical tradition always says the same thing. The purpose of life is to help sentient beings, and in helping other people, you will become joyful. So there's the rare ones, Lynn, that arrive at that point where you said that their passing, that their dying is peaceful. And there is something to be said about dying a peaceful death because you've acted in helpful ways, that you were oriented towards the benefit of others. If everything that we're living out is a consequence of our past actions, then our thinking is the consequence of our past actions. So the thinking that we're holding when we are dying is a reflection of how we've lived, So there is the rare ones that are dying peacefully. They're like, I did the thing. I came, I did the thing. They can look around and they're just like, wow, I have full body chills as I'm saying this. Wow, I love you all so much. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for loving me. I've loved you. These people are the ones who have done forgiveness practice, who are active in their forgiveness, who are active in their service. There are a few simple things that helps people die a peaceful death, or one may say even a happy death, right? So yeah, and to just add one more thing to it, in the Buddhist perspective, right? It's really important that if you are next to a patient who is actively dying, if that's your family member, your spouse, your kid, whatever, it's really important that you find within yourself that point of serenity, that point of peace. This is from a Buddhist perspective. It's really important that you are not agonizing next to the patient or the family member who's dying, because if you are perpetuating a narrative of suffering in your mind, it can orient their mind stream to that state as well. So we don't want that, because from the Buddhist perspective, it could lead the mind stream of this person into a lower rebirth because of what was their state of mind when they're dying. So I say all this to say I'm at fault. When my mother was dying, I was sobbing, wailing on the floor. I don't even know how it will be when, even I said to my siblings and my dad, I hope I'm next. I really fucking hope I'm next. I hope I'm the one who dies before dad or before any of my siblings, because I don't know how I would handle that. So as a teacher, I'm telling you what the scriptures and the literature says to do. Be peaceful in the room. If you don't bring peace to the room, get out, right? That's what they say to do. But as a student and a practitioner, I hope I will be better equipped in my own practice when something like this does happen, because when my mom was dying, I did not have that. I found myself saying I'm sorry to the doctor for screaming at him later. So I found myself, lashing out and then saying I'm sorry an hour later. So even though I was able to come around and say I'm sorry, there was a moment of repair there, which often we don't have.
Right.
So yeah, that's my feedback to that. That's my answer to that question. And it's a very unique process too, Lynn. It's a very unique process. It's very unique. It's the most important thing we can do is, this goes to everybody, is to know how we want to die and how the ones around us want to die. Is to not let the last minute be when you fill out the pink slip because someone is, oh shit, it's happening tomorrow, this week. No, have these conversations now. We are so driven to the light, to the happy, to the excitement, to the inspiration, to the daytime. We forget that nighttime and darkness and death are so part of our lives. So much life happens at nighttime. So many vegetables grow only at nighttime. So many, there's different scents, there's different life at nighttime, and same thing with death. If you only focus on the living, you were going to miss the opportunity to have these conversations and get to know how people want to die.
What was that process like for your mother? Do you feel like she had a peacefulness around that, or was it pretty tough?
Awful.
Was it? No, I'm sorry to hear that.
Tragic. Yeah. Tragic, traumatic, like
Mm,
capital T. Like literally it's like it's the I have still yet to completely release the emotional residue of that event from my
no,
body. You know,
right.
it still flashes, it still inflames, it still twists, and it still brings the neck pain and the lower back pain and the stomach issues and the headaches. And,
Yeah,
it's still like my body still goes into the stage where I'm like fully contracted. It was awful. It was one thing after the next, where my young brother had to step in and be the leader of her health directive. This is a young man who is extremely wise, prolific as a human being, also has no clue about the death process, has no clue about how his mother wanted to die, no clue about perhaps the religious, spiritual rituals that needed to be talked about, no clue about all these layers that I'm only learning now because I'm in the space.
right.
And we choose to not learn about it because we're afraid of this misinterpreted narrative of manifestation that if you talk about it, you're going to manifest that. Talking about it's bad luck. No, not talking about it is what's causing so much pain. This this um, um, death phobic culture that we live in. This is propelling so much fear. So I invite people to have these conversations, to not let the last minute say, you know, uh, I want to be resuscitated or the do not resuscitate. It's like resuscitating a body that is dying or that is uh, terminally ill. It is so traumatic to the body
To the
to break
body.
the ribs. It's like an awful experience. Do you want to inflict more pain to what's already painful? Like these are things that we could avoid that if we just sit together and have a dinner where we talk about our the inevitable death that we all experience. You
Right.
know, have a beautiful meal, make something on a crock pot, have soup. I know you
Mhm.
and I are sober, but make a elixir. Make something that resembles celebration for you, and talk about death. Talk
Right.
about what do you want it to be like? You know, all things that like people have no idea. Like people have no idea. We buried mom in the cemetery with her father, her mother, and her brother. And then we built this beautiful. We bought these tiles and this marble, and we're trying to make it cute. But you know, is that what she wanted if we had a chance to speak to her? I'm actually talking to her next week through a medium.
Mhm.
Because I need guidance. I need guidance. I need my center. I walked out of a patient's room last week, and it was an hour long conversation. It was so profound. I picked up my phone to call my mom.
Right.
Yeah, because she's the one that I would call when I had done a great job or when I had like messed up.
What was your mother like? Sounds like you were really close.
We were so close, Lynn. So close. She was someone that I called every single day. There was not a day that we didn't talk. And some days, twice, three times, you know, like
Mm,
I'm looking around every furniture I have in this house, every single thing I bought here, it was her. She was on the phone with me, helping me pick.
mm,
And some people are like, oh, your mother sounds like a helicopter mom. I think you learn later that the helicopter moms are the good moms, that the moms who were like overbearing, perhaps smothering, are the ones who were the good ones. And I don't say good versus bad. I just say the ones who you will miss them deeply when they're gone, and
right.
who help you to enter the world with a sense of confidence, not because mommy was always saying, you're so special, because she loved you with an unconditional love. So I look at my brother and my sister, and the three of us have a sense of confidence that it isn't something that we went to like confidence school, or this is not even something that my meditation practice helped me. This is
Yeah.
not something that I learned in a monastery or on a dance floor or through helping other people. It's something that was nurtured into me by my mother's love. So
Mm.
having that physical presence gone is so
Mm.
hard.
Yeah.
And we not only shared the deep love, but we shared a love for dance. We shared
Hmm.
a love for helping others. We shared a love for kindness, and sweetness and humor. She thought I was hilarious, and I thought she was hilarious. There's all these layers of it that's like, wow. So planning life without her, it's very, very hard. And then her death calls forth something in my dad that it's hard for him to do. It's hard, I should not say hard. It's different, you know, because he now has to be the nurturing parent. He now has to be the one who calls and is available to chat, to check in, to just hear what I have to say about a patient,
Hmm.
or what I have to say about my conversation with Lynn, like the ins and outs of my day.
Right.
So yeah, losing a parent is really hard.
It is. Yeah. When my mother died, she knew what she wanted to do, and she went into a hospice, and she made a decision. She was facing amputation of one of her legs, and she said, "No, I'm 82. I'm a farm girl. My body's done. I'm ready to go." And not everybody in the family agreed, for sure. But she was really clear about what she wanted. So I think people kind of got behind it and so, okay, I'll accept that, even because it was so clear, And that was very helpful. And yet, when she died, everybody still had their own reactions, and some of them were shocking to me. Like everybody kind of jumped up and turned on the lights and started packing up her stuff out of the at the hospice. I'm like, no, I can't do this. Leave it. I'll do it later, but I need to sit with her for a while. And and it was shocking to me that they were just not wanting to be still and be present. But it's people are so uncomfortable with those feelings and with death and with grief. Many people are really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. I should say most people. Most people know. I want to say like 99% of people, and also the discomfort. It's like the awful things that you probably heard after your freaking mother died. The
Yeah,
awful things I've heard after my mother died. It's like, and they're not saying awful things because they want to be awful, but
right.
it's just a reflection of their discomfort. She's in a
Yeah,
better place, you know.
yeah,
The suffering's over. What
yeah,
the, like the awful things. Oh, this is God's plan. God has a plan. Like the layers of
yeah,
how uncomfortable people are, and instead of two people being uncomfortable together and arriving at a place of ease with their discomfort, one person wants to fix their discomfort right away, and their way of fixing their discomfort right away shows up as unkind,
right.
self-centered words, you know
Yeah,
and to speak about being in that room, Lynn, how beautiful that you wanted to be in that room. Remember a patient a few weeks ago. I was having dinner. It was like 7 p.m., and I get a text message from the hospital saying, one of your patients just died. It's a patient that I've been following for a while.
mhm,
And if you want to come in, she will be very grateful. The patient's daughter will be very grateful. I never got to meet the patient because they were unconscious for the vast majority of my care. So my care for them was mostly silent, mostly chanting mantras out loud.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll get an eye, sometimes I will get an open eye contact, like I hear you, I see you kind of thing. But
Mhm.
most of the care was for the daughter. And I just remember eating dinner, and I was eating a cheeseburger, lettuce wrapped cheeseburger, and I was like loving it because I was, eating mostly vegan throughout the week. And then this was Saturday. Um, I was like giving myself the cheeseburger experience. And I'm eating the cheeseburger and I get the text message and I was like, oh my God. Because at that point I was living about an hour away from the hospital. So I was like, wow, by the time I get there, the body's going to have been dead for an hour. Anyways, I checked with the nurse. I already knew this, but some hospitals gives you up to 4 hours with the body.
Mhm.
And some Buddhist places, some Buddhist traditions require even more time, right?
Right.
Depends what your faith is. Anyways, I came into the room with like prepared to do these rituals, and I prepared 71 pages of this Buddhist ritual to do, and we did nothing. There was a chant, a power chant, which is a transferring of consciousness. That's the most literal way of translating transfer of consciousness, easeful transference of consciousness. Chant playing at the end of the bed by the head of the patient. And me and the patient's daughter just sat there silent in meditation for 2 hours. Literally, I remember moving one time to take off my jacket because I was so warm, you
Mhm.
know. And then
Mhm.
when I took off my jacket, I asked the patient's daughter to check if the heart was still warm. Because if the heart's still warm, esoterically speaking, mystically speaking, through the Eastern Buddhist tradition, some of them believe that if the heart's still warm, that means that the consciousness or the spirit's still there.
Yeah.
So you could still they're still listening. Um, they're still listening attentively to your prayers.
Right. Right.
Uh, so that's the only thing I did in 2 hours was I took my jacket off and I opened my eyes. And as soon as I opened my eyes, the patient's daughter opened their eyes. And then I just asked about the heart. And then, she touched the mother's heart and then went back into silence for another
Yeah.
hour. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
that capacity to be in it, something that I think our meditation practice has trained us to do this, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What an intense year you've had. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And starting the new year, you know, part of me wishes was gonna be like feeling energized and healthy, but it's like, no, honey, like here's what you got to work with. And it's really pointing to learning how to nurture myself, give myself the love of mother. And I'm like, oh, that's deep. Like, how
Mhm.
do I even conceptualize that kind of love? So I've just been like realizing like a bath, the warm water, it's the
Right.
comfort of mother, a hot water bottle on the belly, soup, like things like this. Super helpful for the grief, super helpful for the blanket of the mother energy.
And you also, in your body, in your nervous system, in your neural networks, you know that love. So that is so fortunate to have had that love in person, but it's still in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm made from my mother, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm her.
Yeah.
It's just this moment that we're sharing right now, looking to your eyes, a smile, conversation. My mom was a gem. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when your mother died?
About 58, I think. Yeah. It was 12 years ago. Yeah. And my father, we didn't get a chance. He died when I was 40, but nobody knew he was going to die. It was a minor operation and he died a few days after that. So we didn't get a chance to say goodbye. He was 67, my mom was 83. It was a very different circumstance. Yeah. There's something different, though, about people who are comfortable being around people who are dying. And I'm
Mm.
sure that you've met a lot of them at the hospital in the work that you do, and other places too, of course. What's your sense of that?
You're so wise, Lynn. I love you. It's so interesting
It's
because
mutual.
oh my God, you say all the things that I'm reflecting to like my supervisor and my cohort. It's like, I love these people that I work with. I love them so much. It's
Mhm,
this, like, there's no time for any superficial conversation.
mhm.
It's just we're immediately at that place. You know, your question was what exactly? What's about them? Tell me again. What?
There's some of us who are comfortable being around people who are dying. Like, what's your sense of why that is, or what's the difference there?
Yeah, this is my sort of topical, more superficial answer. And it's not superficial that it's not full of depth, but it's just superficial as in this is the most obvious answer, right? They have faith. They have faith. And their faith, sometimes as a Buddhist, I could see their faith as the sort of blind faith. It's a belief on something that someone else told you. In Buddhism, we know it's like our faith is based on direct revelation. Our
Mhm,
faith is based on direct insight. Um, but regardless of what I have to say about their faith, regardless of how I interpret their faith helps them be with the dying. Their faith helps them be with whatever's arising. They know that pain is part of the human gig. They
mhm,
know that dying is part of the human gig. They know that, and they also don't know so many things, and they're okay with not knowing. You see what I'm saying? They're
mhm,
they're okay with the things that are obviously going to happen, that they're obviously entrenched, ingrained in this human life. And they're also so open to the mystery that it helps them to just be like, you know and we can go to the cafeteria or get a cup of tea and sit in the sunshine in the patio garden area of the hospital, and we could talk about these patients and our experience, and there's just such groundedness with it, you
mhm.
know because of their faith. So if someone's listening to this, if someone is listening to this who doesn't have a faith practice, that's what I'm saying. Consider faith as something that opens you up to believe the unbelievable and stop believing only what's believable. Let your faith open you up to the mystery, because we don't know. And what we do know is that pain is inevitable, that death is coming for all of us. um, Making friends with that reality regularly, right? So activate your faith that this is part of being human, that will happen. And then develop a faith on the mystery. I don't know what that looks like to you. Maybe go back to your oftentimes going back to, I was going to say, go back to the faith you grew up with. That's obvious, probably 9 out of 10 times a bad idea, actually. So let me take that back. Go forward into a faith tradition, into a path, to a group of people whose relationship with death, whose relationship with the mystery inspires you, relaxes you. So I think that's what it is. Um,
Mhm.
Everyone there has a strong, unwavering faith, and it's from every tradition, right? So we're the rest of the team is Muslims, all different kinds of Christian, and Jews, and it's literally, and Buddhists, and different kinds of Buddhists. So we have this group of people who are like all caring this knowing that we don't know a lot, and that's okay, So does that answer your question?
Do you think that that faith, however that is for them, is what allows them to accept life as it is instead of resisting life?
Yes, 100%.
Mhm.
Every single mystical tradition. I actually did some research about this, and I presented this to my cohort at the hospital. That it was. I'm trying to remember the exact words, but essentially, I did some research about like what does every mystical tradition, the big ones, right, the top five, the big five, what do they all say about pain and the importance of pain, and not the importance of like you know, I want pain, but the importance that like there is meaning, there's purpose for pain in human life, you know,
Mhm.
um, and they all have to say the same thing in their own specific ways. But it's every tradition has made peace with the fact that pain is part of it, that death is part of it. That it's not a. I think a Christian mystic said this, that pain is not an elective; it's a core curriculum. You
Uh-huh.
know,
True.
and then I think a Jewish mystic said that in the divine plan, in God's plan, pain is part of it. And I'm misquoting the languaging now, but essentially, it invites us to see that the death and the pain, all the things that we deem as bad, all the things that we deem as shameful, scary, fearful, away from me. I don't want it. Um, the top five, the big five mystical traditions all say that it's a core part of, and it's an important part of, and it helps us to live better lives today, because we really don't know if we have tomorrow, but we always forget. We're always like, no, tomorrow's coming.
Right,
Tomorrow will be better. It's like, what if, can you make today better? Can you make this moment better? And it's not
right.
fixing, but can you have within you, can you access that place in you that is at peace always? Can you go to that center in you that helps you see it all from a new perspective, that helps you to see harmony in the chaos, that helps you to see even beauty in the death process, like
So
that?
how might that work for people? There's so many people right now, especially who are really distressed about the world, the violence, the fear of climate change. How does that relate? What are your reflections about that? How could people work with that when they feel so afraid and distressed and maybe angry?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is to have a somatic relationship with it, you
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
to just go to the body and where is the anger in the body? Where is the fear in the body? Where do you feel it? And then, to really activate that Rumi quote, the guest house, and really approach your inner world with that understanding that like everything that's visiting you is a visitor that's here for a reason, that they've been sent here for a reason, that they have something to offer you. And I'm not saying that every feeling has meaning and every feeling has inherent purpose to guide you in this way or that way. No, I'm saying that even if they don't have this grandiose meaning, what if they are just here to call you into presence? What if they're just here to call you into being in your body? What if they're just calling you into let go of the stories? What if they're just calling you into like experiencing your life from the inside out, not from the outside in for a second,
Mm,
What if they're just reminding you that you're actually really thirsty and that you're underslept, you know? That you probably could stop eating these foods because they don't make you feel good. That you could put down the wine, you could quit smoking, you could,
mhm,
all the things that like maybe the intense emotions aren't necessarily related to X, Y, and Z that's happening out there, but it's perhaps they're coming up as a reflection of what's going on in here, something that has to change between you and you. you know?
Mhm.
So what I invite people to do is it's have a somatic relationship with your emotions. Go to the place in the body. You can do it with your mind's eye, or you can do it with a hand and wherever you feel in your body that emotion is living, and have a conversation. But start the conversation with, "Hello, old friend. Thanks for visiting me.
Mhm.
Thanks for visiting me. I love you. And thank you for visiting me, and see what happens. Oftentimes that's enough. You will notice a change take place. With the
Yeah.
light of your awareness, touching the place in the body where the emotion is alive, with that kind of care, with that kind of sweetness, 9 times out of 10, you notice the tension, the emotion starts to fizzle and change. And if there's more there, then you could touch it, you can be with it, and then you can have a practice of talking to it, like, what do you need?
Mhm.
What do you really need? It's not what do you want, it's what do you need, right? Because the wants will have languaging that are tied to our conditioning, but the need is something that will propel you into presence, into inspiration, into kindness, into service, right? So
Yeah.
they will, that anger, that fear, it um might offer you insight, you know and I think one other thing that I want to say too is, sometimes this is more advanced, right? So this is more on a sort of a more advanced. I have to preface by saying advanced because it could be bypassing when you haven't done the somatic conversation, when
Oh,
you haven't done the basic engagement with you. If you haven't developed somatic awareness, self-awareness, then it's bypassing to do this, right? But if you have it, then we know that the more we engage with challenging emotion in our body, the more we engage with the fear, with the anger, with the sadness, the more we give power to it by being with it, being like, not only not being with it per se, but allowing it to consume us, because being with it is spacious. Consuming us, it takes us down, right? If we give too much power and we allow these challenging emotions to consume us, then we feel more and more separate from the world, right? So hear me out. The way forward may be to actually go out into the world, to bring spaciousness inside. So it goes back to what we started the conversation about, connecting to the outer world that will bring you joy, and that connection to the outer world of like serving others will bring you joy. And as you enter a state of joy, then the bubbles of tension, the emotional baggage of the past that was alive in your body will naturally unravel in service to other people. In caring for other people, you find the missing pieces of your own healing. In helping other people, you find the keys to your own prison. And it's not a thing where you have to be like, "Oh, okay, this person gave me the key to the prison of abandonment. This person gave me the key to the fear of climate change." It's way more, it's way simpler, and it's way easier than we think it is. We are often thinking, "Oh, this story needs to be fixed. This pain needs to be resolved. This, and we're separating." But there's nothing separate, you know and when we can understand that caring for someone else's sadness will bring about the key to unlocking and unshackling us from our sad stories. Not one sad story that we have, but our sad stories. Like the blanket of sadness that's over our biography will start to fade away. Helping somebody forgive will help you to forgive your biography, your story. So it isn't separate. It's not that helping one person deal with one thing will only help you in one story. No, it has a compounding effect. It multiplies. It's so much bigger and mysterious and interconnected and interdependent. Just to wrap this up, it's like, sometimes being with your own fear is enough to pass. Sometimes being with your own fear isn't enough to pass. Being of service will help it pass, right? And sometimes dwelling on the fear for too long will create a sense of isolation from the world, and then more fear will prevail. That is a good opportunity for you to say, enough making my fears special, enough making my anger so special, enough making my doubts, my resentment, my even my grief so special. It's
Mhm.
like we can't make a fleeting experience too special, you know, because we lose touch with reality. We disconnect from reality when we make a fleeting emotion too special. We're attached to something that has no there's nothing to hold on to, you know, like that.
Well, that's a beautiful way to wrap this up. The best teachers are the ones who work with this so deeply in our own lives and then bring that out into the world. And right now, a lot of what you're doing is one to one with one or two people. And I'm really interested to see how that looks for you over this next year and forward. That's going to be fun and deep.
I have no idea where it's gonna go, Lynn. Like
Right.
literally, people are like, "Why are you doing this? What's the goal? What's the plan? Do you want to actually like full time at the hospital?" I'm like, "No, I I need a variety of expression for healing,
Right.
but it's definitely a very important piece of it for me." So I have no idea. We'll see. To be continued.
So, how can people get a hold of you?
If people want to dive into like more of my lecturing, teaching, educational material, and obviously to do the somatic dance that people know me for, all of it is in the Somatic Activated Healing membership. Everything is in my Instagram. Literally, everything's on my Instagram. If you want to hear beautiful, fun, and funny and inspiring conversations, you can go to the Spiritually Sassy podcast. And if you want to find places that you can donate resources or donate money. On my website, there's a section that says humanitarian efforts. There you can find the Compassion Prison Project. So you can donate money to help make prisons more trauma informed. You can donate money to end slavery. These organizations there are all places that I have, that I'm friends with the founders.
Mhm.
And if I'm not friends with the founders, I am there. I have been there myself on my body. I'm not usually one to only donate money. I usually want to like go, okay, you're ending slavery, let's go see. So
Right.
then he goes on a plane to India and goes, figure out what slavery looked like in the modern world. And then I'm deeply heartbroken, but the heartache opens up to, okay, here's how we can figure out the next wave of service. So everything's on my website, sahdsimone.com. Or on Instagram at SAHDSIMONE. Thank you, Lynn, for having me.
Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure, and you are a wise healer. And thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you. It's not mine. It's not mine. It's not me. It's many lifetimes in the making. I'm just
Yeah.
happen to, in this short-lived life, it's coming through from this experience, from this verb, from this expression that we call Sah. It's not me. It's not mine. It's not I. Passing through.